Today, we're diving deep into the work of Dr. Elizabeth Bright and her ideas on fixing thyroid issues. Now, these theories are definitely unconventional, you might even say controversial, but they're also super compelling. And she believes this one issue could be the hidden reason behind so many of our modern health problems.
So let me just ask you, does any of this sound familiar? You know, that fatigue that just never seems to go away? That annoying brain fog? Or weight that just won't budge no matter what you do? Well, according to Dr. Bright, these might not be three separate issues. What if they all point back to one single thing? Your thyroid. And get this, her solution is probably not at all what you're thinking.
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start by looking at why the thyroid is like the body's conductor. Then we'll cover the top 10 signs that something's wrong. Next, we'll get into the everyday things she says are actually harming your thyroid. After that, we'll walk through her healing protocol. And finally, we'll see how all this really challenges how we normally think about thyroid health.
Okay, so to really get a handle on Dr. Bright's entire philosophy, you have to start right where she does. And that's with this idea that the thyroid isn't just some gland. No, she sees it as the master conductor of the whole show. It literally rules everything. You know, this quote from her really says it all. She's basically saying, you name it, your mood, your energy levels, your heart rate, your metabolism, it's all connected back to the thyroid. Its influence is so huge that it's actually hard to find a health problem that it doesn't have a hand in. So what even is hyperthyroidism? We always hear it's an underactive gland, right? But Dr. Bright looks at it totally differently. For her, it's not just underactive, it's inflamed. It's a gland that's basically under attack from inflammation and literally starving for the nutrients it needs to do its job, especially iodine. And that conductor analogy, it's absolutely key to her whole argument. She points out that the thyroid is the very first gland to develop when we're just a fetus. Think about that. That means from the absolute beginning, it's wired into every single organ, setting the tempo for the entire hormone orchestra from day one. So if the thyroid really is the conductor, what happens when it's not working right? Well, the signs can pop up all over the place. Let's go through 10 of the most common ones and, just see if any of these sound a little too familiar. This list is pretty massive, right? And it makes sense when you think about what the thyroid actually does. Like when it slows down, your metabolism slows down. Boom, there's the unexplained weight gain. Your brain is a huge energy hog, so when it doesn't get enough fuel, you get that classic brain fog. The body even starts to cut corners, rationing energy away from things it sees as non-essential, like growing strong hair and nails. All of these different symptoms, from high cholesterol to mood swings, they all trace back to that one central problem, a lack of energy. So why does it seem like this hits women so much harder? Dr. Bright points straight to this number. Historically, 80% of cases were women. And she ties this directly to puberty. Think about it. Developing female sexual characteristics, like the breasts and uterus, requires a massive amount of thyroid hormone and iodine. If those supplies are low, that's often where the trouble starts. Okay, this brings us to a part of Dr. Bright's work that's, well, it's pretty provocative. What if some of the things we're told are super healthy, the stuff we eat every day, are actually the very things that are sabotaging our thyroid? So this is where things get really flipped on their head. Dr. Bright says that a lot of so-called health foods are the real problem. First up, you've got goitrogens, things like broccoli, kale, cabbage. She says these literally block your thyroid from getting the iodine it needs. Then you have things like tea, which is loaded with fluoride. That fluoride actually fights with iodine to get into your cells. And finally, she puts a red flag on a whole bunch of other common things like nuts, seeds, and even spices like turmeric, saying they're just plain inflammatory, which just adds more stress to an already stressed out system. And all that inflammation leads us right to Hashimoto's. Now, the common story is that your immune system gets confused and attacks your thyroid by mistake. But Dr. Bright says, no, it's not a mistake. She believes that chronic, nonstop inflammation from our food and our environment just pushes the immune system into overdrive until it goes rogue and starts attacking the already inflamed thyroid. And the big takeaway from her perspective? It's not a genetic life sentence, it's reversible. Okay, so if a bad diet is creating all this inflammation, what's her answer? Well, It's a pretty radical 3-step protocol designed to basically stop the attack in its tracks and let the healing begin.
So her protocol is a 3-pronged attack. Step 1, get rid of the bad guys. Eliminate all those inflammatory plants, spices, and stimulants. Step 2, calm the inflammation and give your body the right fuel by switching to a high-fat carnivore diet. And step 3, give the thyroid its most essential building block by supplementing with a very specific type of iodine called Lugol solution.
So, why this exact 80-20 fat to protein ratio? Well, the thinking here is twofold. First, a diet made almost entirely of animal fat is extremely low in inflammation, so it gives your body a much-needed break. But at the same time, all that fat provides the cholesterol your body needs to make steroid hormones, and those hormones are essential partners for your thyroid.
To put it really simply, animal fat is the hero of this story. It's not just calories, it's practically medicine. It directly fights inflammation, and it fuels your adrenal glands. Dr. Bright is adamant that you cannot separate your thyroid health from your adrenal health, and your adrenals literally run on the cholesterol you get from fat. All right, so why Lugol's iodine? Why that one specifically? It all comes down to the recipe. See, it has 2 different forms of iodine, elemental iodine and potassium iodide. According to Dr. Bright's research, different parts of your body crave different forms. Your thyroid, for instance, uses iodide, but other tissues, like in the breast and prostate, need iodine. This solution gives you both, and as a bonus, it helps kick out those other chemicals like fluoride from your body's receptors.
Now, this entire protocol, from the diet to the iodine, is, well, it's a world away from the conventional medical approach. So let's wrap up by looking at how Dr. Bright really wants us to rethink the standard way we test for and treat thyroid problems.
Okay, so if medication is needed, say if the thyroid has been really damaged, Dr. Bright highlights a huge difference. The most common one, levothyroxine or Synthroid, is just a synthetic T4 hormone. The body has to work really hard to convert it into something usable. But natural desiccated thyroid, or NDT, comes from pigs, and it has the whole spectrum of thyroid hormones, T1, T2, T3, T4, and calcitonin. The body basically recognizes it as homemade.
And her critique of standard testing, it's just as sharp. Most doctors just look at the TSH test, but according to Dr. Bright, that's like checking on the mailman to see if you got your mail. TSH is just a signal from the pituitary gland to the thyroid. It doesn't tell you how much actual thyroid hormone is floating around in your blood. And here's the crucial part. She says the brain doesn't even use that TSH signal, which is why your TSH can look totally normal, but you still feel like you have crippling brain fog. That's why she pushes for testing free T3 and free T4. They measure the hormones your body can actually use.
This mall analogy she uses is just perfect. It so clearly captures her view of what's happening. Your body isn't broken. It has intentionally powered down to conserve energy. It's a mall with 100 stores, but only 2 have their lights on. You can't just run to the main breaker and flip everything on at once. You'd blow a fuse. For her, healing has to be slow and systematic. You've got to turn the lights on one store at a time.
And that really leaves us with one last really important question to ask ourselves. If our energy, our mood, our whole metabolism is being run by this one little gland, are we feeding it what it needs to thrive? Or are we accidentally feeding it the very things that are causing it to fail?